Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Sam. Okay, looks like it is recording, but I had the monitor on earlier. This shall be the podcast episode dealing with the maid Madta Cagenet. That's one thing. I actually really like the Substack reader. I think it's pretty good, but I don't like how it says some names like Cagenet. And if you listen to Eathel the Bastard, my other story, it's like Eathel. It reminds me of like Long Island Medium. Did you ever see that show? Like Eathel the Bastard. Eathel. Anyway, if you can get past that, then it's a pretty good. It kind of sounds like Pedro Pascal, which is awesome and an honor. But today we shall read the first chapter of the exciting subplot, Mad to the Spy. All right, here we go. 59 subscribers. I am so grateful. Thank you. If you're just listening to this, thank you. And if you're sharing it with a friend who likes this kind of thing, your fantasy, then double thank you. All the thank yous. So, here we go. Mad to the Spy, Chapter 1. We approach a fortification guarding the realm of a lord whose household Madta Cagenet is to infiltrate. Her mission, become the source of intelligence in the castle of Eathel's greatest rival. Now there is some, I can't go into like the complete context of everything all the time. I know this is the first chapter. Excuse me. Um, but I'll try to kind of add in details and notes here where I think it might be confusing. But here we go. The light narrowed. It was in those crepuscular hours. Crepuscular means like twilight. The colors of the day refracted into a prism, and then that prism closed in on itself slowly into darkness. Miles back, Madta Cagenet and the driver had come out of the mud and icy precipitation that swirled around always in the Terran lowlands. Their wagon had lurched out of the wet dirt and had begun rocking across the sandy clay and open fields. The sun had shone, and the day between then and now had been beautiful. It had been a relief to get here, though there was just a bit too much cold woven in the wind, and in the gust that now seemed to carry them up the closing walls of the mountain pass they approached. So, too, the world narrowed. After that pleasant day and this one, cliffs began to rear as violently as suddenly as do horses. They flew up on either side, and the wagon's path had been a winding one, through jagged striations cut in the rock. The Though mammoth in height, I have to fix this paragraph, and it's a cool one too. Hold on, let me just try this again. So, too, the world narrowed. After that pleasant day and this one, cliffs began to rear as violently as suddenly as do horses. They flew up on either side, and the wagon's path had been a winding one, through jagged striations cut into the rock. Though mammoth in height, the rock grooves were barely wide enough for the passage of a few wagons at a time. What had once been a mere track, a hidden way known only to a few, had been turned into a controlled gate, a place where men with iron and authority determined who could pass and who could not. The walls of the pass were streaked with the last light of the sun, the coming dusk stretching the shadows long across the damp earth. Overhead, the wind whistled through the stone, bringing with it the scent of damp pine and old iron. They were here in a wall of mountains that guarded the entrance to Daisevo, the largest region in Sotera. So real quick, in the print in the web text version, we've got some footnotes here. Let me just quick go read those. So footnote for Daisevo. This is going to be the lord of this earldom, Daisevo or Dariova. You'll hear a few different names for it. There are varying names depending on who's going to say it, but it's going to be some variation of Daisevo, Darievo, which mimics a lot of like the medieval conventions. You've got these writings that you're looking at. Different people are even different names, right? Some people are called this, some people are called that, and you kind of have to sift through the context to see who you're talking about, and sometimes you don't even know. But anyway, the lord of this earldom, at least what the earl himself calls himself, what his demonym is Dariova. That's his land. But the lord of this earldom is Cyclevios Veotax. That's the dynasty, is the Veotax dynasty. The 12th Earl of Dariova, and Cyclevios is one of the wealthiest vassals of the Duchy of Terra, which means that he rolls up directly He's an earl, so he rolls up directly to the duchy. There are no vassals. He has no liege other than the guy at the top, Hastus, the fifth Duke of Terra. And so that is the largest region in Sotera. Sotera is the informal name for the region of Terra southwest of the Crestal Riandir, by the way. So let me get back up to where my spot was. The cool thing is on mobile, you can kind of like when you click on that footnote, it'll pop up and you can kind of see it like right there without scrolling down. And if you're watching online in the video, these are all videos and they get posted to my YouTube and everything, but you'll see this. So if we're talking about whenever I talk a lot about the Crestal Riandir because it's sort of the axis upon a lot of which upon like what this all hinges. So you can see here, that's the Crestal Riandir. And this brown is like Terra, it's Terra proper. Like this is the heartland of Terra, right? So if we're down here to Dicevo, we're going through Sehados down here, right? And if you're following along with Eathel, Eathel currently at this point in the story is actually not far from where all of this is happening. He and his posse are making their way very quickly from here to here, where these two crossed swords denote the smoke heist battle. So they're actually not far, but that's where Madta is at this point in this mountain range here between Sehados, which is a vassal of Dicevo, which is a very large and powerful region over here from Terra. Up here is the capital, Satep Terra. That map is posted too, by the way. So just to know, there's a rhyme and a reason, right? Like we're not just sort of randomly throwing people around there. So anyway, so they were here in a wall of mountains that guarded the entrance to Dicevo, the largest region in Sotera. There were no other ways through to the verdant Piedmont awaiting them on the other side of these harsh, rocky mountains. The range of sharp stone teeth blocked any traffic east to west, cut on a bias tending southerly across two lowlands for miles in either direction. The skinny path was guarded by a strong wall of oak and tar, reinforced with steel, and had its own garrison with near 100 men. The party ahead of them was waved along and through the gate. The cart had been only one of two others ahead of them when they arrived. The little train was as thin as expected. Few took this way. It was not the main road. That was the point. But it was a sanctioned port of entry. It was also a back route where a certain set of people, those who knew of it and its lighter garrison, could avoid the longer main passage, where the cargo was more likely to be inspected, and any guards less liable to take a bribe. The large driver whipped the reins. The wagon jolted as the mules pulled it forward, their breath rising in pale, heavy clouds. "You ever been through here before?" the man asked Madta. Madta just looked ahead. But always she watched and listened and felt. She felt something like the air around people who were near her, and the air told her things about them without words. Almost always, these things about them, these feelings toward them, turned out to align with events that unfolded later. This is the first hint that we're going to get that Madta is one of the Revengean, which are the afflicted. They are those who are capable of wielding magic. In this world, magic is seen much more as a curse than a gift. It is not something that you want to have. Those who are capable of wielding magic, which is mostly hereditary, but it can happen kind of autochthonously, um, who can wield magic are at best second-class citizens, if they're found out. It can be hidden anyway. That said, this is the first hint where she's revealing that she is a type, a subtype of these revenge and these afflicted, these people who have this capability of performing supernatural feats. So she is a different type than the main character, Aethel, um, in Aethel the Bastard. It's a very Mistborn kind of vibe. Hard rules, soft magic is kind of like my memento or my thing, right? Um, Sorry, I just got a nice Instagram message from somebody I miss. So anyway, this is kind of the first hint we're getting that there's more to Madta, right? Like she's powerful, right? Um, Let me just see. Hmm. Madta just looked ahead, so the driver just asked her something. Madta just looked ahead. But always she watched and listened and felt. She felt something like the air around people who were near her, and the air told her things about them without words. Almost always, these things about them, these feelings toward them, turned out to align with events that unfolded later. This man was afraid, and he was trying to hide his fear. He was better at shielding his apprehension than most, but not from Madta. She felt through the armor of his deception. I thought that was a pretty cool line, if I do say so myself. The old driver's grip on the reins tightened. "I've been twice," he said in a mutter, "not like this." So he was one of the ones who liked to talk when he became scared. That was not good. His jaw twitched, but she didn't answer. That seemed answer enough. Madta did not shift herself. She did not lean forward or back. She sat still, thin, arms wrapped around the rough sack on her lap. She knew what was in it. Merely her paltry personal effects and nothing to incriminate her in the oncoming panopticon of searching eyes. But what lay beneath the stacked crates in the wagon bed? That was another matter. She was not supposed to be here. She was fast on her way to doing something that she should not, or could well get her killed. Or worse, to Madta, captured and bound somehow, either in her person or spirit. She could not be dependent and vulnerable. This driver she was with, he was not supposed to be carrying what he carried. He should have not taken it on, but he had, and now they were both at risk. She felt the weight of the wagon beneath her, so rickety was it under them, that she was in a constant state of surprise that the thing did not collapse in on itself like a poorly built tent. The nauseating sway of it on the uneven road brought forth the surge of a memory she hated, unbidden. Her father's voice, sharp as a razor whet. She hated her mind for bringing forth the swimming image of her father's face, close enough to hers that she could smell his stale breath. Madta's father berated her with rancorous invective. The smack of his palm as it sent her sprawling into the dirt. The grain sacks tipped over into the mud, ruined, as he bellowed his rage into her face. He stooped down to her and screamed so loudly her ears muddled the sound and caused her to draw back even as she was sprawled in the muck. She had been younger then, smaller, powerless. She had felt that way ever since that earliest memory of hers, leveled by the back of her father's huge hand. In all the years after that experience, this feeling of profound vulnerability had never left her. Then, a strange man had appeared at the doorway of the hovel she shared with a cousin and the woman's husband. Madda had sworn to herself, lain low by her father's blow, through bloodied lips and stinging eyes, that she would never again be that weak, never again be in the mercy of another's anger, at the mercy of another's anger. First, the man in the dark coat had come. Then the Lord came, hidden in secret so that he would not be recognized. Then the chance came. Now Madta was seated on a wagon not very different from the one in her memory, the one from which she had sent sacks of precious food tumbling and cried next to in the dirt. And though this was her chance to escape, still, here and now, she knew she remained bound by another man's decisions. The irony was a burning bile near the top of her stomach. Madta's breaths grew more and more rapid as the palisade loomed closer. Its sharpened stakes were driven deep into the earth. The dark wall was a crude but strong, effective barrier. The wooden tower jutted from the cliffside, overlooking the narrow pass like a looming man who was impossibly tall and wide, contrived of stolid oak instead of flowing blood. The gate itself was reinforced, iron-bound, its timbers thick and dark with rain and age. This was a place meant to hold back armies if needed, to control the flow of men and trade. A meager garrison of men-at-arms could stop hundreds here. They had almost reached the gate. A wary array of scowling men stood waiting, in dirty, tattered hauberks, carrying torches, and hands rested on the pommels of swords. Their boots planted firm in the churned mud, faces skeptical and demonic in the crimson light of their lambent torches. One of them, the leader by the indigo robe he wore wrapped around his torso, clasped with a steel pendant, stepped forward. His mantle heavy over his shoulders, a sword at his hip. The old driver, gripping the reins with hands too tight, did not speak first, and that was already a mistake. "State your purpose," the leader of the guard said. "Trade," the driver's voice came out too fast. The word alone was not enough. The leader's gaze sharpened. His eyes flicked to Madta. "And the girl?" "She's with me," the driver said. Madta forced herself to keep still. Kitchen help, she said in almost a whisper, her voice thin but firm. She held the leader's stare, though it terrified her to do so. She had agreed to this charge because she had no intention of depending on anyone ever again. She had been chosen, in part, because her aunt served in the castle kitchens, her uncle a maitre in the household of that lord, overseeing its supply and provisioning. She was not here because she was the best choice. She was here because there was no one else. Sometimes that was all the world offered. The leader turned his head slightly, motioning with his rough leather gauntlet. Search it. His chainmail rattled like coins in Manta's ears. From this man she felt no hidden thoughts. Her ears, that could pick up a deeper range of sound, seemed to go silent when their owner was under duress. Just grain, sir, the driver started, but the leader silenced him with a look so strong it made the driver wince. A guard with a torch stepped forward, the firelight flickering over the damp wood of the cart, over the man's too tight grip on the reins. The knuckles of his fingers were cast in white. The light reached Madta, and she felt the heat of it on her face. Felt her breath catch as the flames wavered, illuminating the sharp planes of the guard's expression. Suspicion. The torch was shoved roughly into the back of the cart, the light casting jagged shadows over the barrels and crates stacked there. Madta's pulse roared in her ears. Nothing not permitted in your land, sir, the driver muttered. We'll decide that, the leader said. The man beside her shifted, just slightly, but she felt it as if it were an earthquake. He was nervous, too nervous, and now they would see it. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. That will be the latest podcast. I will go ahead and record the other one as soon as I can. Bye.